Hi, I'm Lisa Bardot, and today's drawing tutorial is all about toes and feet. This video is a part of my People Skills series, a month-long sequence of tutorials and assignments that will get you familiar with the basics of drawing humans and help you develop your own people drawing style. If this is your first People Skills video, I recommend starting with the introduction and working your way through the tutorial sequentially. We'll be working with the iPad app Procreate to do the tutorials, but you are more than welcome to join in with a paper and pencil or whatever medium you feel comfortable using. If you're new to Procreate, I highly recommend watching my Intro to Procreate tutorial. Let's get started. In this series, we've been learning all about how to draw people in a stylized manner. This means our goal is not realism. So while we're not drawing realistically, we do need to have a foundation of how things actually look and move. To stylize something means to boil it down to its most essential parts and then make choices as the artist about which of those parts to include and how to depict them. We should start off with a baseline, or what I like to call the minimal depiction. This is the least amount of information we need to portray a toe or a foot. In order to find this out, let's have a visit from our humble friend, the stick figure. As you can see, the foot is a short line that comes off of a longer line. Or if we're working with shapes instead of lines, it's a shorter shape coming off of a longer shape. It doesn't take a ton of imagination to see this as a foot. Let's zoom in and consider the toe's minimal depiction. A toe is a stubby, rounded shape. One stubby, rounded shape with 4 other stubby, rounded shapes definitely communicate toes. When looking at just one toe, add a nail shape, and that is unmistakably a toe. We can even add some nail shapes to these other ones to make them look even more toe-like. Now that we know the simplest depiction of the toes and feet, let's look at the basic elements, or the qualities that when put together mean we're talking about a foot. Let's start by observing the toes. First thing that is super obvious is there are 5 toes, 1 big and 4 little. The toes form an overall arch shape. The shape of that arch is different for everyone, but it's there. We can see that the toes have nails. The toenails are pretty small, short and squat, wider than they are long. The next observation is that the big toe sweeps upward and the little toes all curl in or point down. Next, toes can bend. The 4 little toes have 3 joints, 2 on the visible toe and 1 that's more hidden. It's closer to the ball of the foot. The big toe only has 2 joints, the one in the ball and one in the middle of the toe itself. I hope you recognize that this is quite similar to the hands. Hands and feet are structured similarly. On the bottom of the foot, you should notice that the underside of the toes are quite fleshy and padded, sometimes even appearing as spheres. The last thing I want you to notice about toes is that there's a small space between the big and second toe. Perfect spot for your flip-flops. Let's move on to the foot. The parts of the foot are the ankle, which is where the foot connects to the leg, the bridge, which is the main part of the foot, the underside of which is the arch. Of course, there are the toes. And then on the bottom of the foot are the heel and the ball, which are the 2 really fleshy parts on the underside of the foot. Let's talk about the ankle. The ankle is not a perfectly straight cylinder, though it certainly can be simplified as such. There are protrusions on either side of the ankle. If we take a peek at the skeleton, we can see the bones that cause these bumps on the ankle. The one thing I want you to remember about this is that the bump on the inside of the leg is slightly higher than the bump on the outside. This is also why you usually see the ankle drawn with a curved line to show that bump. Moving on, you'll notice the foot is overall a triangular shape. The foot is also narrower at the heels and wider at the toes. So these are the basic elements for toes and for feet. Before we move on, let's talk a little bit more about the movements of the feet. Just like the fingers, the toes can be splayed out. They can also curl under. The toes can be pointed up and can flex even further backwards when pressure is applied, like when you're standing on your tiptoes. When weight is applied to the toes, the middle joint bends a little, making the toes scrunch up. The foot's major joints are at the ankle and where the toes connect. At the ankle, the foot can move up and down and all around. The foot can point, so it's almost in a straight line with the leg. The foot can also flex, so it's perpendicular with the leg. All of the toes can even point up. Okay, let's start talking about how to draw the foot. In 2D, the foot can be simplified into 3 shapes, a wedge and 2 rectangles. Starting at the leg, we have a rectangle for the heel, then a wedge for the main part of the foot, including the bridge, and another smaller rectangle for the toes. These forms will allow you to draw the foot in a side view in nearly any position. Look at your own feet in the mirror or photos of feet and try to draw the basic pose of that foot using these 3 shapes. The way I like to draw my feet is this. I draw my legs as a cylindrical shape. Then I draw a line within this oval. This line represents the direction that the foot is pointing. Then I draw a line perpendicular to that. The edges of the second line represent where the sides of the legs are, or where the ankle bumps will go. Extend those lines down to the bottom of the foot. Now we can start to draw the footprint. A line can help establish the general direction. Then I draw 2 lines that splay out just a little. Remember, the foot is wider at the front and narrower at the heels. Plus, we've got a little perspective action happening as well. Now, some lines going up to give the foot volume. Then we can connect those lines. Then we can add a half cylinder for the heel. Now, onto the toes. Draw some lines extending out from the footprint. Let's zoom in over here a little to get a closer look. On the inside of the foot is the big toe. Draw a line the same height as where it connects to the foot. On the other side, draw a shorter line because little toes are shorter. Draw the top lines going across. It's expected that these 2 lines won't connect. Define the width of the big toe on this taller side, and then divide the rest of the space into 4. Now remember, toes are curved on top, so let's draw an arc connecting this point to the back corner. Do this on top and bottom of that shape. Now add lines to define the 4 little toes. Now we can start to see how sketching with this structure makes the big toe sweep upwards and the little toes point down. You can also lay down some basic guides for the toenails. Now we can create a new layer and start outlining everything. I like to start with the big toenail because it really helps me define the volume and angle of the toe. Alright, so this is a pretty massive big toe, but hey, so is mine, so I guess you draw what you know. Then outline the rest of the toes and add the toenails. Let's zoom out a bit. On the underside of the foot, we have those 2 fleshy parts, the ball here and the heel here. So the arch is in the middle. Those fleshy parts might squish out a little bit, so the outline on this side might look something like this. Finish up by outlining the other side, and don't forget the ankle bump. Let's finish up this other foot that was pointing straight ahead. We'll sketch the structure in the same way as the other foot, with the big toe being taller and the arcs on the little toes. Sketch the separation between all the toes and add some nails. Then, on a new layer, trace over, adding the curve of the actual toes. Right behind the toes is the ball of the foot, which we can't really see, but the skin might squish out a little here since the person is putting all their weight on their feet. Outline the rest of the feet, including the ankle bones. Now we can turn off our sketch layer. One more detail. Remember how there is some space between the big and second toe? We can add a little crease detail here to denote that, and even a few more creases on this front-facing foot. Now we've got a couple feet. These are by no means perfect, but we are going for a stylized look here anyway. We can use these same 3D shapes to draw the feet in other poses as well. We just have to change the angle of the 3D shapes. Let's do one with the heel raised, weight on the toes. Here the wedge shape is angled up and the toes are flat. Remember how the toes scrunch up when weight is applied? We can communicate that by drawing the toes with little bumps. I definitely recommend using references when you're studying foot poses. Let's do another one, a pointed foot. The bridge of a pointed foot follows the line of the leg. The toes also curl under, so we'd see even less of the toenails. I know that this seems like a lot of steps to draw a stylized foot, but practicing all of these steps will really get you familiar with the structure of the feet. That way, as you become more skilled, you can simplify that structure even more and do it much faster. In fact, eventually you might want to draw your feet with curved shapes, so let me show you that. In reality, feet are much curvier and not made of boxy shapes like I've shown you. You can start with the full footprint. Then, around the spot where the toes connect, draw an arc to define the volume of the foot. You can think of this arc like the strap on a sandal. Then, draw a line that curves around for the toes. Add an oval where the foot connects to the ankle, then connect all those parts together. I'll add some contour lines so you can really get a feel of the volume of the foot. Let's do that again, but in another pose with the heel raised up. Define the footprint and add an arc for volume. Define where the ankle will be and connect. One more for a pointed foot. The bottom of the foot is nice and curvy when it's pointed. Then we can take that and go over the top, adding the outlining and the toe detail. Once you've practiced a ton, you can more easily visualize the curve of the toes and the heel and the ball and the arch without having to draw guidelines in your sketch. Plus, this rounded method will really help you out when you start drawing shoes on your feet. Now it's time for your homework. First, observe a bunch of feet. Hopefully you're not one of those people who gets grossed out by feet. If you are, I don't know how you made it this far in the video. Make observations from photos and from life, including your own feet. Try to notice additional creases or details beyond what I've described in the video that you might use in your own stylized feet drawings. Draw some feet using the detailed method I've given you. Draw the feet in a variety of poses. Once you're comfortable, simplify that structure even more, eventually trying out the rounded structure method. Maybe even draw a shoe. Don't expect that you'll get to that point in a day, but keep at it. Your skills will improve with practice. You can learn more about this assignment on the lesson page, including a Pinterest board I made full of inspiration and additional resources. Find all that, plus an organized list of the People Skills lessons at bardobrush.com/people. I've put a link in the description. I hope you'll join us in our next tutorial where we're going to be drawing legs. Be sure to subscribe and tap the little bell icon so you don't miss it. I made People Skills as a part of my Making Art Everyday project. It's a series of drawing prompts, tutorials, and motivation to help you overcome creative fears and establish a daily art making practice. Learn more at bardobrush.com/joinMAE. If you'd like to purchase the brushes used in this tutorial, you can find them and many more at bardobrush.com. If you're posting your work to Instagram, I would love to see it. Use the hashtag bardobrush. Thanks and happy art making! If you like this video, please subscribe for more awesome tutorials. And check out one of my other videos. Have a great day!